Hey, I'm back and considerably less depressed, at least for now. My dog is back. She's actually in the background. I wanted to talk about, I had a pretty bad day today on the bipolar front, but I don't really want to talk about that right now. We'll get into that later. I'm planning a video on that later. But today I'd like to talk about two things fairly surface. One is my hair. Because several people who haven't seen me in years have seen these videos and they're like, oh, you're blonde. Not quite. This is my gray, actually. This is how my hair turned. I started getting gray hairs when I was 19 or 20, and I dyed it throughout the 90s. I was a redhead most of the time. One time I was completely goth black to the point where it looked really weird under natural light. But it looked great in clubs, and I was in clubs a lot, so it didn't matter. But after a while, I started saying, let's just see what it looks like, and this is what I got. It is almost pure white. It's a little darker underneath, and this is probably, honest to God, the best hair color I've ever had. My original hair color is dark brown, and it really didn't go with my complexion too well. So, and that's one thing I want to talk about, fairly surface, but I thought it was notable. Second thing is my accent, because a lot of people who only knew me from the internet were like, oh, I'm surprised that you had an accent. And a lot of people in the South tell me I don't have an accent. They say, oh, you don't have an accent at all. Listening to these videos, I can see that they're wrong. Of course I do. How could I not? I live in Alabama. Of course I sound like a Southerner. But I don't have a strong accent, and that is actually, there's a lot of taboos against having a really strong accent, even in the South, or especially in the South, because you don't want to validate certain stereotypes. You don't want to sound like a hillbilly. You don't want to sound like a redneck. You don't want to sound stupid, because every time you see a character on television or in a movie with a really thick Southern accent, they're almost invariably really dumb. So it's a big issue. The reason I talk this way is because my dad talks this way. And the reason my dad talks like this is because his mother made sure all the children spoke properly and without strong country accents, because she felt they were better than their neighbors, or they should be, because their father was a minister and she thought they should set a good example, and they shouldn't sound like they didn't have good parents or good breeding or whatever it was. So there's a lot of class issues involved in this, obviously. There's a certain kind of upper class Southern accent that is not really natural to this part of Alabama, but you still hear it sometimes. I think a lot of women teach themselves to talk like this. Doesn't really happen too often around here, but some people, I think, have affected it. So that's two things, and I'll probably talk about something more serious later. All right, see ya.